March 22nd here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the ongoing medical deadlock here in South Korea. A group of professors say they could retract their intent to resign if the government is willing to negotiate. Professors, in the meantime, will reduce their working hours starting next Monday. The U.S. Justice Department has filed a landmark lawsuit against Apple for illegally monopolizing the smartphone market and crushing competition. Denying the claims, the tech giant says it will vigorously fight the lawsuit. South Korea drew 1-1 with Thailand in its 2026 World Cup qualifying match here in Seoul on Thursday night. The teams will face each other again in Bangkok at 9:30 p.m. next Tuesday, Korea time. Medical professors who are set to resign next week say they're willing to reconsider if the government is willing to negotiate. In the meantime, starting Monday, professors will be on duty on much reduced working hours. Choi Min-jung reports.
Calls for dialogue seem to be growing within South Korea's medical community. Following a weeks-long walkout by trainee doctors, medical professors have also threatened to resign next week in protest of the government's plan to increase the number of medical students. However, speaking during an interview with a local broadcaster on Thursday, the head of a group of medical school professors hinted that the professors could sit down for talks with the government if punitive measures imposed on junior doctors are lifted. The chief added that professors could even withdraw their resignations if the government relaxes the measures. He also called for more objective data before increasing the medical school admissions quota.
We are not opposed to increasing the number of medical school admissions per se, but we think that it could be possible if an acceptable figure is obtained through objective verification. However, the government's plan to increase the quota by 2,000 is not objective data that any doctor can accept.
Meanwhile, the Medical Professors Association of Korea has announced that it would reduce the working hours of hospital professors to 52 hours a week starting next Monday. They will also minimize outpatient treatment starting in April. The decision was made to focus more on treating high-risk patients. Also starting next Monday, the government is set to begin suspending the licenses of trainee doctors.
Starting next week, the government will enforce license suspensions for doctors who have defied the return-to-work order.
The Health Ministry has issued prior suspension notices to about 5,000 trainee doctors who must submit their responses by next Monday. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Now, over in Gaza, Israel says its military forces have captured some 650 terror suspects in a raid on Gaza's largest hospital, which also resulted in 140 gunmen being killed. Lee Seung-jae has the details.
The Israel Defense Forces and Shin Bet security agency said Thursday that 650 terror suspects were captured, including several very significant senior Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad commanders, during a massive raid at Gaza's largest hospital. It added that it also killed 140 gunmen during the raid. The announcement came on the fourth day of military operations at the Al-Shifa hospital, where Israel said it captured Hussam Salameh, the commander of PIJ's observation and intelligence unit in Gaza, and his brother, Wissam Salameh, who is the head of the Islamic Jihad's propaganda unit in the region. The raid came as the Israeli military claimed that it had received information that Hamas and others were using the hospital as a hideout to reorganize their battle lines. However, Hamas accused Israel of killing dozens of displaced people, patients, and medical staff during the raid. IDF spokesman Daniel Hagari said no civilians, doctors, or medical personnel were hurt during the operation. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, during a joint press conference in Cairo with his Egyptian counterpart on Thursday, said that a major Israeli offensive in Rafah city is unnecessary and would be a mistake. The top U.S. envoy argued that such an operation would worsen the situation and that there's a better way to deal with threats posed by Hamas. Blinken added that while it looks difficult, a ceasefire agreement could be possible, as he noted that gaps are narrowing. The U.S. Department of Defense on Thursday announced that the defense chiefs of the United States and Israel will meet next week at the Pentagon. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and his Israeli counterpart Yoav Gallant are expected to discuss the need to expand humanitarian aid to Palestinian civilians and ensure the safety of more than 1 million residents in Rafah. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The U.S. Justice Department is accusing Apple of monopolizing the smartphone market and preventing competition. Now, the lawsuit adds Apple to the list of tech giants targeted by government crackdowns. Shin Se-byuk has more.
The U.S. Justice Department, together with the District of Columbia and 15 U.S. states on Thursday, filed an antitrust lawsuit against Apple related to the company's iPhone. At a press briefing on Thursday, U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland accused the tech giant of monopolistic practices in its iPhone sales.
That Apple has consolidated its monopoly power, not by making its own products better, but by making other products worse.
He highlighted two key issues. First, Apple's imposition of contractual restrictions and fees that limit what developers can offer iPhone users. And second, its selective restriction of access to the iPhone's operating system for third-party apps and accessories. Garland criticized Apple for limiting the functionality of competitor smartwatches and hindering messaging compatibility between iPhones and Android devices, claiming these actions contribute to an unfairly closed ecosystem. The Justice Department contends that Apple has intentionally made it difficult for users to switch from iPhones to other smartphones, effectively keeping them within its ecosystem. The Attorney General warned that if left unchallenged, Apple would only strengthen its monopoly, emphasizing that consumers shouldn't have to pay higher prices due to a company's violation of antitrust laws. Following the lawsuit, Apple issued a statement saying that the lawsuit threatens the core identity and unique principles that distinguish Apple products in highly competitive markets. The company also said that if the lawsuit is successful, it could stop the production of the kind of advanced and integrated products that people expect from Apple. It could also lead to significant changes across the company's ecosystem. This might include the reduction of developer fees, allowing third-party digital wallets more freedom, and enhancing compatibility with non-Apple devices and services, potentially altering how users interact with Apple products and services. Apple joins the list of other major tech giants in the U.S. to face comprehensive legal challenges from the government alongside Google, Meta, and Amazon. Shin Se-byuk, Arirang News.
The past few days have been exciting for baseball fans here in South Korea, with the first Major League Baseball game of the new season taking place for the first time ever here in Seoul. For more on the highlights, we're joined by Yoo Ji-ho this morning. Welcome back, Ji-ho.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. It was quite a thrilling and special event, especially for all the baseball fans here in South Korea, wasn't it?
It sure was. I'm a baseball fan myself, and it was a privilege for me personally to be able to cover those games between the LA Dodgers and the San Diego Padres out at gov't Stadium in Seoul. Like you said, the very first Major League Baseball regular season games taking place in Korea. Fans were, they had the chance, the rare opportunity to watch big leaguers in person, and I think it was long overdue. Baseball is such a big sport in this country. And I think these fans deserved this opportunity a long time ago. gov't Stadium has only about 16,000 seats. This is quite small compared to, considering the major league standards, where teams typically play in front of 30,000 plus fans. So, hopefully maybe the next time, maybe there will be a next time. And so another city in the country gets to host these games, hopefully it's going to be at a bigger stadium. And hopefully we're going to be able to give more fans a chance to watch these games.
Definitely. I've also noticed that there were a lot of foreign fans at the game, which seem to be big fans of Ohtani. Now, Ohtani did really bring all the fans from all around the world, didn't he?
Well, he certainly did. He was a main attraction for this series. A lot of fans from Japan were able to travel to Seoul to watch him. play. And, significantly, this is also his first Major League regular season game as a member of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Of course, he made a big splash in the winter during the offseason, signing the massive 10-year, $700 million contract to join the Dodgers. These were the first 2 games that he played for them in the regular season action. So pretty monumental occasion for Ohtani, who is certainly one of the best players, one of the biggest stars in Major League Baseball today.
Definitely. We have to talk more about the highlights. It wasn't just Ohtani. Park Chan-ho, he is one of South Korea's first baseball stars. He threw out the first pitch of the Seoul series opener. And also former Dodgers ace Lee Hyun-jin also made his appearance, right?
Right. So Park Chan-ho was the first Korean player ever in Major League Baseball, made his debut with the Dodgers back in 1994. And it also later played for the San Diego Padres. So it was really a no-brainer choice as the person who took, to throw out the ceremony of first pitch. Of course, he had that split jersey, Padgers on the front,
right,
and his iconic number 61 on the back. So obviously, he didn't have. He kind of tried to, I think, stay neutral in the series. Now, with Ryu, he played for the Dodgers for several seasons, and of course, the current manager Dave Roberts had Ryu for several seasons as well. And he had his best year of his Major League career as a Dodger back in 2019. So Ryu visited with Roberts, before one of the games, was able to reconnect with his former manager, brought in some delicious gifts as well for some of his former teammates too.
Right. Ryu did really make a smart move with the uniform there. Now, with the opener played out in front of some very Korean-style cheering, for our viewers who may not be so familiar with it, what is cheering like at baseball games here in South Korea?
Well, it is basically defined by constant noise, chanting and singing from very first pitch to the very last out. And this is a very, I guess, the unique experience for a lot of the players on both teams. They got the full KBO treatment, if you will. This constant singing and chanting and a lot of dancing going on in between innings from the cheerleaders. They brought some of the KBO player songs and replaced some of the words, some of the lyrics to fit the players from the Dodgers and the Padres. So, the managers for both teams, Mike Field for the Padres and Dave Roberts for the Dodgers, they spoke all week about how different, how interesting, how entertaining this whole cheering culture was for them. And, some of the players even talked about how maybe they should try to adopt that back home in the U.S. So we'll see what happens with that suggestion, if you will. But they certainly got a taste of what it's like to watch and also play baseball in Korea.
Definitely. Well, Jiho, as a person who was at the opener, how did foreign spectators and players enjoy it?
Yeah, it was kind of difficult for people from overseas to get tickets, but for those living in Korea, right, some of them, I guess a lot of them were able to find tickets to get into games. And again, people from LA or San Diego or other parts of California, this is their opportunity to watch their favorite teams in Seoul. So, and I'm sure they enjoyed it. I think it would have been nice if they had made it a little easier for them to find tickets for people from overseas. But this is the first time, so you kind of learn from some of the mistakes made along the way, and hopefully, like I said earlier, there will be a next time for games for Major League Baseball in this country.
Definitely. So jealous you got to enjoy it. All right, Jiho, thank you so much for your time this morning. You have a great day.
You too. Thanks for having me today.
The South Korean men's national football team's recent struggles continued on Thursday evening as the team settled for a 1-1 draw against Thailand. Playing in front of a sold-out Seoul World Cup stadium, Captain Son Heung-min opened the scoring with a left-footed shot from the center of the box, set up by midfielder Lee Jae-sung to make it 1-0 in the 42nd minute. But Thailand replied with a 62nd minute goal, with Sofana Muyenta poking in the equalizer from close range. Now, South Korea remains still top of their World Cup qualifying group with 7 points, with Thailand sits in second place with 4 points. The two teams play again on Tuesday in Bangkok at 7:30 p.m. local time. Today is World Water Day. Now, we all know how essential water is for life, but many are still suffering from a lack of clean water. Our Yoon-hee has this report.
The call to save water has almost become a cliche, with most people understanding the importance of water as a precious resource for life. But it's more than just simply using less water.
That's the reason why we have set up Sustainable Development Goal Number 6, Water in Sanitation, which emphasizes the multi-phases role of water for socio-economic development, as well as environmental sustainability.
One of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is to ensure access to water and sanitation for all by 2030. Key steps include improving water use efficiency and enhancing international water cooperation.
So then we need to think about more broadly, not only about our only daily consumption, but also any kind of impact we are giving on the environment and human development as a whole.
The theme of this year's Water Day is Water for Peace, which is significant considering the impact of conflict on the water supplies of people living in war-torn regions due to contamination or even the complete destruction of water-related infrastructure. Humanitarian aid organization MEDER tells us more.
War in Ukraine has been going on for 2 years now, and from continuous shelling and airstrikes, the water infrastructures such as boreholes and pipelines, they have been seriously damaged or completely destroyed.
In Gaza, UNICEF estimates that displaced children have access to only 1.5 to 2 liters of water per day, which falls below the recommended minimum requirement for survival of 3 liters per day. This means that people, especially children, are at risk of dying from related illnesses like serious diarrhea or malnutrition, even if they survive the fighting. There are also many other forgotten crises taking place around the world that receive less attention, such as conflicts in Syria, Sudan, and Yemen.
Every year, 30 million people flee their homes because of conflict or disaster, and these people often no longer have access to water sources and sanitation services, and they become vulnerable to epidemics.
What can we do to support those in need?
People can help other people who are suffering by simply sharing information about this issue, and people can also directly support the relief efforts on the ground by donating to an organization like MEDER.
World Water Day on March 22nd reminds us of the need to save water. Everybody has the right to safe, accessible drinking water, but not everyone is able to get it. Raising awareness is the first step toward helping others and protecting our environment. Yoon-hee, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn over to stories from around the world. At the EU summit in Brussels on Thursday, pro-nuclear European leaders and energy experts called for more nuclear energy use in Europe in a political push to revive the declining nuclear industry in the region. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen stressed the urgency of combating climate change at the first ever nuclear energy summit, saying that the readily available source of low-emission electricity can help pave a cost-effective path to net zero. Von der Leyen also said that the future of nuclear energy depends on the industry's ability to deliver on time and on budget, adding that other potential avenues, such as decarbonize heat or to supply low-emission hydrogen, can help reach climate goals. The need to find alternatives to Russian gas and meet EU's climate targets is driving the renewed interest. In the US, a patient has received a transplant of a genetically modified pig's kidney, marking the first ever transplant of a gene-edited pig kidney into a living person. The patient is reportedly in recovery and expected to be discharged soon. Doctors at the Massachusetts General Hospital in Boston operated on the 62-year-old patient for 4 hours on Saturday. The patient, Rick Slayman, has been diagnosed with end-stage kidney disease and had been a patient in the hospital's transplant program for 11 years. Slayman, who suffered from diabetes and high blood pressure for many years, received his first kidney transplant from a human donor in 2018. Dr. Tatsuo Kawai, the surgeon behind the operation, said the pig organ was exactly the same size as a human kidney, saying that it was truly the most beautiful kidney I have ever seen. Doctors said that although Slayman's new pig kidney could last for years, many unknowns in animal organ transplant may result in the patient returning to dialysis if it fails. In India, thousands of Hindu devotees gathered to witness and celebrate the colourful ritual of the festival of Holi. The Varanasi, its city, on Thursday, Hindu ascetics and priests threw ashes on the gathered crowd from the temple. This ritual, called Masan Holi, is because Lord Shiva, who grants eternal peace to the dead, is believed to play Holi with pyre ashes. Crowds celebrated and danced to religious songs on the day that signifies a triumph of good over evil in Hinduism. The world's oldest living land animal, Jonathan the tortoise, has landed 2 spots in the Guinness World Records. The Seychelles giant tortoise is at least 192 years old, with his caretaker saying that the age is a conservative estimate. Jonathan is the oldest living land animal and the oldest chelonian, a grouping of both tortoises and turtles. He lives on the remote island of St. Helena, famously known as the site of Napoleon Bonaparte's exile. Jonathan's caretaker, Teeny Lucy, who's been on the duty for over a decade, said that Jonathan is an enigmatic tortoise who's met many of the British royal family.
Good morning. The weather changes day to day these days, and we need an umbrella today. Rain will start from the western regions from mid-afternoon, gradually spreading east. And from tonight into tomorrow at dawn, it will rain heavily in central parts of the country, along with thunderstorms. Making matters worse, the rain could be mixed with yellow dust in the air. After a chilly start, temperatures will jump this afternoon despite the showers, topping out at 16 degrees Celsius here in the capital. Then it will be even warmer at the weekend, reaching 21 degrees on Sunday, but the south coast and Jeju Island will be rainy throughout the weekend. Strong winds continue today with a dry advisory in Gyeongsang-do provinces still in place, and it should start to rain tonight in that area. Meanwhile, afternoon highs will be 2 to 8 degrees higher this afternoon. Daejeon, Gwangju topping out at 18 degrees Celsius. Now, the chance of rain returns early next week to the capital, but morning temperatures turn much warmer. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back next week for Monday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.
Welcome. 엄청난 에너지를 춤으로 뿜어내는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries. Our change will lead to better lives for all. New Lotte, the power of a better world. New today, better tomorrow. Lotte.
하나, 둘, 셋.
Hey, Mr. Cupid, who's mine? Make sure you listen to what I say. I may be stupid or quite naive.
끝없이 쏟아지는 포토스팟. 휴대폰 한 대로 감당할 수 있겠니? 한국에 오면 먹어야죠. 먹어도 끝이 없는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니? 웰컴. (24시간) 불이 꺼지지 않는 나라. 감당할 수 있겠니?
make a new type of news.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Making news just for you. It's March 22nd here in Seoul. I'm Shin-Yun, and you're watching News Generation. Joining me in the studio is Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
Happy Friday, and Park Ki-hoon.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Good morning. Now, both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. As usual, let's start with our news feed, which covers different hashtags and news items that have been trending on social media over the past 24 hours. South Koreans reportedly go to sleep later than most of the world. A popular global alarm clock app with over 82 million downloads called Alarmy analyzed users' data from last year and found that people in Turkey went to sleep the latest at night. On average, Turks fell asleep at 1:08 a.m. Then it was those in South Korea. South Koreans usually fell asleep at 12:57 a.m. Alarmy is used by people from 232 countries, and the latest survey found that those in Indonesia were the ones to wake up at the earliest time at 6:11 a.m. Moving on, yesterday, March 21st, was Cancer Prevention Day, a day designated by officials in Korea to raise awareness on getting regular checkups to better prevent or detect early symptoms of cancer. Cancer is the #1 cause of death in Korea regardless of age. Among various types, kidney cancer seems to be posing a big threat, particularly among the younger generation. In the past 5 years, we saw 72% more kidney patients among females in their 20s. Though kidney cancer is 98% curable when detected at an early stage, it's very difficult to treat once the tumor spreads. Compared to other types of cancer, it's hard to physically detect symptoms. Visible signs are seeing blood in your pee, sudden weight loss, or a lump in your kidney area. And Donald Trump has indicated that he would most likely try bringing back the 15-week national ban on abortion if he gets re-elected as president in the upcoming November election. In an appearance on a morning TV show, Trump said he supports what he called a majority-backed number of weeks that allow when abortion should be allowed, and that's 15 weeks. Now, he did bag exceptions to a ban on abortion, for instance, in case of rape, incest, or saving the life of the mother. Trump is running for the Republican Party, which is seen to have a conservative stance on when a woman should be allowed to have an abortion till. The Biden campaign has constantly brought up its opponents' curbs on reproductive rights, especially after the Supreme Court in 2022 overturned the Roe v. Wade ruling that recognized a woman's constitutional right to abortion. The American public since expressed its disapproval by limiting Republican gains in the congressional elections that followed. Now, since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, we've seen abortion rights tweaked by state, and Republicans have issued restrictive abortion laws in nearly 24 states. And Trump's 15-week comment is significant in the sense that it won't seem to be pleasing to both his political party or abortion rights activists. Now, here in the studio, as much as this is a contentious issue, where do you personally stand on abortion rights, or how do you perceive this news story?
First of all, politics aside, the first thing that pops up in my head when I think of abortion is my body, my choice. I'm not 100% for abortion, but I think it's really up to the women to make the right choice at the right time.
Right.
Perhaps 15 weeks may be enough to make an important life decision, whether it's medically safe, health-wise, or whether it's ethically right. But I'm not a doctor, so I don't have much say on this. But I just hope that women do not manipulate this and take advantage of, getting abortions repeatedly, because it's obviously not good for their body, and they might become infertile. But however, I also think this is one of Trump's, electoral campaigns to win the votes of, the swing voters in swing states as well. And I definitely think this is not an issue to be discussed on the table at this time of the year.
Exactly. It does seem to be coming at an uncanny time, especially as they are waiting for the November elections to come forth. Walter, what about you? What did you think?
Yeah, well, in all honesty, I'm for women having the ability to get an abortion as long as there are regulations as to when they cannot get an abortion, which they are figuring out, like the age of the baby in the womb, etc. I have many people around me against the idea of abortion, and I know that the argument is at this stage it's murder whenever you abort a baby, but I still think it's a woman's choice as to why they decide to abort. I agree with Ki-hoon that they shouldn't be doing it multiple times, but obviously this is a hot debated topic that I feel like will go on forever, and as a male I don't think I have much of a say in it, to be honest with you.
And as you mentioned, it is a debate topic that we're seeing happen around the world, with recently with France, now here in Korea. Hopefully we'll see more developments come forth. Now, in the meantime, we're going to switch gears to our discussion topic of the day. Every March 22nd is World Water Day, and the UN's flagship report on water and sanitation is released every year on this day. The report mentions and monitors how much clean water is accessible in different parts of the world, and it sheds light to how much more water we need to conserve. For more on what this year's Water Day promotes, take a listen to my AI voice.
Back in December 1992, the United Nations General Assembly adopted a resolution declaring March 22nd of each year as a day to raise awareness on the importance of water. Hence, from 1993, we had the first World Water Day. The international body has since been highlighting how important water is, as it can create peace or even cause conflict. The UN says more than 3 billion people worldwide depend on water. That crosses national borders, but only 24 countries have mutual agreements to share their supply. That's why the theme for this year's World Water Day has been designated as Water for Peace. The UN aimed to foster a positive ripple effect, where more countries understand that water is an essential resource that should be and could be shared and not competed over.
In light of World Water Day, we're going to be looking at our own daily habits that may be helping or damaging the world's finite stock. We're going to first start our discussion by looking back at how much water we use regularly, especially among our panelists, starting with you.
Well, so Walter loves his water. Happens to be one of my favorite drinks, so I consume a lot of water every day. A lot of people drink bottled water. When I try to use a water purifier, Brita, so I'm saving the environment in 2 ways. I think it saves on waste and tastes just as good as the bottled water anyway. I could probably watch my water usage a bit more though, to be honest with you. For instance, when I shave, I leave the tap running, and though I'm trying my best to fix my bad water wasting habits, knowing that we are actually heading towards a shortage, but I am trying my best.
I know, and I can say I'm living proof that you always bring your tumbler around and you drink a lot of water. I think that's one good habit that I should be learning from you as well.
Yes.
What about you, Kyun?
I think I have 3 daily habits when it comes to water usage. One is drinking bottled water, unlike Walter. 2, taking a shower, and 3, washing the dishes. So, you know, in terms of drinking water, I'm a little particular with what type of water I drink. So I tend to drink bottled water. I know it's not good for the environment, but I only drink 1.5 to 2 liters of water a day, which is not much compared to people taking showers. You know, look, I take super short showers, like less than 5 minutes on average, and I can't really show you, but I can actually time it and show you, because mind you, I know a lot of men who take much longer showers than me.
Not just men, women too.
I don't want to talk about women, because they go forever and they just spend, they use a lot of water. And also with like dishwashing, I don't use a dishwasher, which I know for a fact uses a lot of water compared to just, you know, leaving the tap on. No, so besides me drinking bottled water, I think I don't use much water on a daily basis, but with water, I think it's really important to drink clean water, and I personally think bottled water is a little cleaner than tap water, like personally, and I like to keep myself hydrated. So I think it's really convenient to carry around a few just bottles of water around me.
I think there is a definite trade-off for you. As much as you drink plastic bottled water, you don't take as long showers or use the dishwasher.
But I don't smell.
And you don't smell. Okay, that's the biggest trade-off there. And the UN has been trying to really promote the fact that water, though it's a very important resource out there, it's finite. There's not enough for anyone. And that's why they launched World Water Day. And I would like to emphasize today throughout our whole episode that water is such an important source. But could you elaborate on how important a resource our generation thinks about water these days?
Well, of course, it is extremely important to our daily lives. Our whole world needs water in one form or another. However, we are sadly looking like we are heading towards a water shortage. So if we take a look at the screen, let me just show you the numbers. According to last year's United Nations Water Conference, the world's water shortage population is expected to increase to 2 billion by 2050. Now, when you think about it, the year 2050 really isn't too far away, just another 26 years. So I'm hoping that we are all still alive, but at that point, we're going to be in trouble if we, don't have a lot of water to, give out to people.
Exactly. And before today's episode, I don't think we really recognize, or we're not thinking on a daily basis as to how precious water is, given the fact that we're living in South Korea, where we have so easy access to water everywhere. Though you said you like plastic bottled water, we still can drink tap water too. We have a lot of clean water here. But Kyun, could you also emphasize how important this resource is, especially to our generation?
Right, so I wasn't too aware of water scarcity around the world and in South Korea until I had to, get ready for this episode. And I read some reports from the UN, and like you mentioned before the segment, I think I found out that 3 billion people worldwide depend on water across national borders. However, only 24 countries have cooperation agreements for all their shared water. And that is an alarmingly small number compared to the number of people. And it directly affects their health, food and energy, and of course, economic productivity. Now, to better raise the awareness of water shortage, our water expert, Tony Allen, introduced the virtual water concept. So let's take a look at the screen for further explanation. As you can see, virtual water is basically water used during the manufacturing and distribution of process of products. So the most surprising product to me was 1 kilo of meat requiring 15,000 liters of water and 140 liters to make just 1 cup of coffee. Now, looking at those numbers, it made me wonder whether I should really cut down on my coffee and red meat.
You love your coffee.
Exactly.
I do.
I love my coffee and my red meat as well.
So drinking bottled water is not that damaging compared to how much meat or coffee we drink.
Exactly, because I was just going to say, how much water can we drink in a day? It's probably like up to 2
Not even
liters.
2 liters, right.
But for us to use 140 liters for coffee, that definitely boggled my brain for a bit. Now, fortunately, we have easy access to clean water here in Korea. Sometimes its convenience causes us to be a bit too wasteful. And to find out how other millennials and Gen Z are reflecting back on their water consumption habits, we asked our viewers to share their own daily habits. Take a look at the screen to find out what 3 of them had to share with us. Let's start with Rex. Rex said, instead of watering your garden every day, you can do it twice a week instead. Water you use for washing clothes can be used for flushing the toilet. Even simple maintenance checks can help. Fixing a leaking faucet can save a lot of water. Benny says we have a good way to save water, doing the dishes quickly. Phil says, I'm starting to be more cautious of my water use. I use water restrictors on my kitchen faucet and shower, and I check plumbing fixtures for leaks more often. So I do think that our viewers have a better understanding as to saving water and its importance, but to better understand how important this resource is and realize that now more than ever, we need to learn how to better conserve this scarce amount of water out there. We're going to include an expert in agricultural and urban water management in our talks. We're now going to turn to Dr. Amir Verdi, Professor of Agricultural and Urban Water Management from the University of California, Riverside. Welcome, Dr. Verdi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Dr. Verdi, today is World Water Day, and we're really trying to emphasize the severity of water scarcity around the world. So from when and how was there a specific incident or tipping point that made us all realize that water is such a scarce resource?
That's a really good question. So first, I want to mention that I was watching your news, lots of good information. But when we think about water, it's mainly worldwide. There are different statistics, but water for food. So we're 70 to 80%, I would say, is used for food production. So that's one thing that we should keep in mind. I will talk about this if I get a chance later on. But the problem of water scarcity worldwide is extremely serious. But It's not a recent issue. Ancient civilization, in fact, relied on fresh water for survival, and therefore you can see that they often shape their communities around water sources. So in modern era, especially in 20th century, efforts mainly focused on engineering solutions to increase water supply. So good examples are dams and canals and water distribution systems to store and move water around. But we need to be very careful about such projects, since they may create demand that is not feasible to fulfill in long terms, at least not in a sustainable way. So more recently, there has been a shift towards more understanding the importance of water conservation and focusing basically on the demand side. This shift is essential because we are facing increasing demand due to population growth worldwide, while our water resources, of course, are limited. So climate change and also further complicates matters. So so the consensus is usually that it leads to more extreme events. So more severe droughts are likely to happen, and floods that puts pressure again on agricultural systems and water infrastructure that have not been designed to actually deal with those extreme events. One more thing that I want to mention is that dietary shifts, if they happen in a large scale, that also are important in terms of water consumption. So, such as dietary shift towards more meat-based diets, so which exacerbate the strain on freshwater resources. To put it in perspective, the production of same amount of food calories requires on average 8 times more water in case of meat than for plant products. So, if again we see a shift in meat-based diets and meat consumption, that also can be a part of a problem.
So, as you can tell from our discussion so far, a lot of eco-conscious millennials and Gen Zers seem to be looking for ways to better save water. Would you agree? And why do you think our generation is a bit more aware about the gravity of this situation?
I'm very optimistic about the new generation. In fact, in my the classes that I teach here in University of California, I witnessed firsthand the strong environmental awareness and responsibility among younger generations, particularly regarding our natural resources like water. The awareness gives me cautious optimism for the future. So I think, back to your question, the awareness in part, I think, I hope, is coming from the work that the scientific community has been doing over the decades to generate unbiased, science-based information about our precious natural resources and how human activities can negatively impact them. Another reason is that the younger generation, through social media, gets information more easily, and also they are firsthand witnessing the devastating effects of climate change, particularly on vulnerable communities. So they don't want to be part of the problem, and instead they try to be a part of the solution, which I admire about them.
Dr. Verdi, what are some global policies trying to save water or better allocate clean water to more people around the world?
So let me answer your question a little bit differently by focusing on local and regional issues. So I think water issues are often local and regional, so then they should be addressed as such. And my expertise, in fact, lies in water consumption in agriculture and urban areas where our local solutions are critical. So while there are, I want to acknowledge that there are transboundary water issues that require national or international policies, individuals can make a difference by focusing on local water challenges and finding ways to address them.
I see. Now, Professor, before we let you go, I think today's discussion topic should really resonate with our generation, given the fact that we have so many daily habits that might hamper conserving water in an efficient way. So could you give us any tips on how we can better save water through changing our daily habits?
Certainly. So in urban areas, when we think about water consumption, it typically falls into indoor and outdoor categories. So we are all familiar with indoor water saving practices like taking shorter showers and using water efficient appliances. However, outdoor water use, particularly for irrigation in dry regions like Southern California, where I live, presents unique challenges. Many people lack information of how much water plants truly need and how to conserve it effectively. So generating, disseminating, and using science-based information is critical to enhance water use efficiency in urban areas. Another point worth mentioning is that there is a tight connection between water, food, and energy sectors. Often one is used to generate or move the other. So we need energy to move, for example, and treat water, and water is necessary to generate energy. So conserving one can alleviate pressure on the other sectors. For instance, food waste is significant in some areas in the world. So if we can find ways to avoid food waste, we are indirectly helping conserve freshwater resources. And looking ahead, let me finish with this. I hope to see product labels indicating their water footprints. So not just for food, but also for items like clothing that we grow, for example, cotton that then is used for clothing to manufacture clothes. So this would empower consumers to make informed choices and select products with lower water footprints.
I think it all starts from having access to that type of information. Thank you so much, Professor. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, now before I end off, I'm going to be asking our panelists whether they have any personal tips on better saving water through tweaking our daily habits.
So I think the government could get involved somehow. I lived in Australia when they had a very heavy water restrictions because they were going through a drought at the time. So you could, example, only take 5-minute showers, wash your car once a month, or it was around once a month. You could only water your plants at certain times of the day. I think that's why my showers are just so quick these days, because I grew up having to have short showers. Now, Ki-Hoon mentioned that people take 10-minute showers sometimes. I was shocked to know that some people take 30-minute showers as well. So I think that turning the water off when you aren't using it will save a lot. What I mean is by washing the dishes, you don't always have to have the water on. Scrubbing your body, you don't have to have the water on. While I shave, I guess I should use a cup instead of having the water always blasted on. If you have stale or water, you can just water the plants. Every little bit counts, I think.
Every little bit counts, and though it might be convenient for you to just stay with your daily habits and not tweak them, if you think about it in the long run, this is all coming for you. So maybe putting convenience aside and really thinking about the dire situation that we're in with the lack of resource could be critical. Now, what about you, Kyun?
I just totally agree with everything that Walter just mentioned, but I'd just like to end with it sharing a key message laid out by the UN for Water Day 2024. It says, water can create peace or spark conflict. So I think we all want peace, right? We don't want to fight over water because it is a finite resource and everyone is obliged to drink clean water and have access to enough water for their daily lives. So I think we should all cooperate to create a more sustainable, prosperous tomorrow.
And as our expert said, I think it's all about having enough information and being aware. And hopefully today's episode really facilitated that, because in light of World Water Day, I'd like to let a lot of people know that our water footprint is growing day by day, especially if you think that it's so easy to have access to it. But hopefully, as you mentioned, Kyun, if we're all fostering peace, we need to be better aware of how much we can be saving for not only our generation, but for the future generation. Now, in the meantime, we'll be here every day from 9:30 to 10 a.m. Korea time, bringing you more topics young people are talking about. Special thanks to Walter Lee.
Lovely to be here.
And Park Ki-Hoon.
Always a pleasure.
All right, and thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next week. We are News Generation.
한국에 오면 먹어야죠.